Rewritten stars. A year after the contract that changed everything, Olivia stood in the kitchen of their countryside home, arranging freshly baked madeleines on a ceramic plate. Through the window, she could see Sebastian in the garden, notebook in hand, meticulously labeling each plant with stakes and waterproof markers. It had become their ritual, these memory reinforcement activities designed by specialists to maintain neural pathways for as long as possible. Some days were better than others. Today was a good day. "Your sister's flight lands at 6, Sebastian said, entering with dirt-smudged hands and the scent of earth clinging to his clothes. She texted from her layover. Olivia smiled, pleased he'd remembered without prompting. "She's excited to see you, says she's bringing photos from her research trip." "And her new boyfriend," Sebastian raised an eyebrow, snagging a madeleine from the plate. "The marine biologist?" "Conservationist," Olivia corrected, her heart warming at this evidence of his still sharp memory. "And yes, Jake's coming too." Sebastian nodded, washing his hands at the sink. When he spoke again, his voice was deliberately casual. "I had an idea this morning, for the foundation." The Sebastian Cole Foundation had become their shared purpose, channeling Wellington's resources into research for neurodegenerative diseases and support for affected families. Olivia had taken on a significant role, her business acumen surprising even herself. "What kind of idea?" she asked, watching him closely. "Memory banks," he said, eyes lighting with the excitement that still emerged when his mind was clear. "Digital archives where patients record messages, stories, instructions for their future selves and families, accessible through AI interfaces that adapt to cognitive decline." Olivia set down her spatula. "That's brilliant, Sebastian." "I've already started mine." He pulled out his tablet, opening a folder labeled "For Later." "Messages for you, for the board, for myself, for when words become—" He gestured vaguely, frustration flickering across his features as the term eluded him. "Difficult," Olivia supplied, gently. "Yes," his relief was palpable. "I recorded one this morning, about the first time I saw you, in my office, how you looked both terrified and defiant." Olivia moved to embrace him from behind, resting her cheek against his back. "I was terrified. You were intimidating." "I was captivated," he countered, turning to face her. "Even then." Their lips met in a kiss that still held the urgency of borrowed time, yet carried the comfortable familiarity of genuine partnership. Later that evening, with Lily and Jake settled in the guest house, Olivia found Sebastian on the terrace, gazing at the stars. She wrapped a blanket around his shoulders against the autumn chill. "Good day?" she asked, settling beside him. "Mostly," he admitted. "Had a moment after lunch where I couldn't remember which medication was which." Olivia nodded, accepting his honesty without flinching. This was their pact. Complete transparency, no matter how difficult. "Lily's treatment is officially a success," she said, changing the subject to brighter news. 5 years remission. The doctors are using the term cured. Sebastian squeezed her hand. "That's everything, Liv. Everything we hoped for her." The unspoken thought hung between them, that his own journey had no such hopeful endpoint. The medications could only slow the inevitable decline. "I've been thinking," Sebastian said, after a comfortable silence. "About time." "What about it?" "How differently we measure it now. Before my diagnosis, I counted success in quarters, fiscal years, 5-year projections. Now I measure it in moments. Good days, clear memories." He turned to her, his gaze intent. "Love that exists outside of time." Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. "That's beautiful." "I want to renew our vows," Sebastian said suddenly. "Not the fake ones from before, real ones, on the anniversary of that ridiculous contract." "You want to marry me again?" Olivia asked, surprised. "I want to marry you for the first time," he corrected. "Properly. Because I choose you knowing everything, and I want it documented, another memory to keep." Olivia's heart swelled. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." Sebastian's smile was radiant, untouched by the shadows that sometimes claimed him. "I may forget many things, Olivia Reed Cole, but loving you won't be one of them." "How can you be so sure?" she whispered. "Because it's not just stored here," he said, tapping his temple. "It's here." He placed her hand over his heart. "And there, some things remain even when memory fails." Under the vast canopy of stars, they sat together, two people who had begun with a business arrangement and discovered something far more valuable. Their future held uncertainty, yes, difficult days, inevitable losses, but also this: moments of transcendent connection, love chosen daily despite its cost, and the quiet certainty that some bonds exist beyond the fragile architecture of memory. In the end, their story wasn't about a contract with an expiration date, but about the infinite ways love rewrites our destinies, one day, one choice, one moment at a time.
Converging paths. 6 months later, Maya stood at the edge of Millhaven Harbor, watching the November sunset paint the sky in dramatic streaks of orange and purple. The air had turned crisp with the approach of winter, but she barely noticed the cold as she waited for Elijah's research vessel to return. So much had changed since that fateful July morning when she'd missed her train. After spending 3 unexpected days in Millhaven, days filled with deeper conversations, walks along the coast, and nights spent in Elijah's arms, Maya had reluctantly returned to San Francisco to fulfill her professional obligations, but something had fundamentally shifted inside her. The long-distance relationship that followed was challenging but revealing. Weekend visits became precious islands of connection in their otherwise separate lives. Their professional worlds, which had seemed so different at first, began to show surprising points of intersection. Maya wrapped her scarf tighter as she spotted Elijah's boat on the horizon. Her phone chimed with an email notification. Final confirmation of her transfer to the Coastal Research Institute's new West Coast branch, conveniently located just 40 minutes from Millhaven. The position had emerged unexpectedly from a collaboration that began when Maya, inspired by Elijah's community-based approach, had invited him to co-author a paper on integrating local ecological knowledge with scientific watershed management. Their work had caught the attention of the Institute, leading to a joint grant and eventually to Maya's new position, one that would allow her to continue her research while building connections with coastal communities. She smiled as she thought about how neatly things had fallen into place, as though the universe had been waiting for her to step off her predetermined path to reveal new possibilities.
The weight of autumn leaves. The Seattle skyline emerged through morning fog as Emma drove across the bridge, May secure in her car seat. 3 suitcases contained the essentials of their life, leaving the cottage furnished but vacant. She'd written separate letters to both men, asking for the space to make this journey alone. Her old apartment building looked smaller somehow, less imposing than in her memory. Emma parked in her designated space, still available despite her months away. The doorman's surprise quickly melted into warm congratulations at the sight of May. Emma didn't go to her old home, not yet. Instead, she directed the elevator to the 15th floor, where glass doors displayed Chin and Associates architecture. Heads turned as she walked through the office, May strapped against her chest. Some faces registered shock, others awkward sympathy. Emma moved past them all until she reached the corner office where Nathan's name adorned the door. He looked up from his drafting table, disbelief washing over his features. "Emma, we need to talk," she said simply. They settled in the office's sitting area, May asleep against Emma's chest. Through the windows, autumn leaves drifted down from trees lining the avenue below. "I'm not coming home," Emma began, watching him absorb the blow. "Not to our old life, our old patterns." Nathan nodded slowly, grief etching into his features. "But," she continued, "I am staying in Seattle. I've accepted the associate professor position at the university, the one I turned down when we decided to start a family." "I don't understand," Nathan said, hope and confusion warring in his voice. Emma shifted May to her other arm. "What happened between us broke something fundamental, Nathan. Trust isn't rebuilt with apologies or baby furniture. It's rebuilt with time and consistent actions." "You're giving me that time?" The question held fragile optimism. "I'm giving us both time," Emma clarified. "I've leased an apartment near campus. I'll be bringing May to daycare 3 days a week while I teach. You can see her as often as you want. Be the father she deserves." "And us? Is there any chance for us?" Emma reached across the space between them, touching his hand lightly. "I don't know. That's the honest answer. These months away gave me something I'd lost, myself. The woman who arrived in Whispering Cove was defined by her heartbreak. The woman sitting before you is defined by her choices. Nathan's thumb brushed over her knuckles. What about Julian? He loves you. I saw it every time he looked at you. The question surprised her. How did you know I'd choose Seattle over him? I didn't. But I know you, Emma. You wouldn't be here unless you'd made a definitive choice. Emma smiled sadly. Julian offered something beautiful, a fresh start, a simple life by the sea, but running toward him would be another form of running away. From what? From the harder path, from seeing if what broke can be remade into something stronger. She paused, looking down at their sleeping daughter. I called Julian this morning. He understood, and that way he always does. A tear slipped down Nathan's cheek. I don't deserve this chance. This isn't about deserving, Emma replied. It's about choosing the future that feels right for me, for May. Right now, that future includes you in some capacity. What that looks like depends on both of us. That evening, Emma stood in her new apartment, smaller than their luxury condo, but flooded with afternoon light. She brought the sunflowers, her first independent purchase after leaving, and placed them in the window where they caught the fading sunlight. Nathan had helped carry her suitcases, then left with a promise to return tomorrow with lunch and without expectations. The weight of their complicated history hung between them, neither fully resolved nor abandoned. As darkness fell, Emma opened the gift Julian had pressed into her hands during their goodbye, a leather-bound journal with a note inside. For recording new chapters, your story isn't finished, it's just taking an unexpected turn. Always your friend, Jay. Beside it, she placed Nathan's offering, a small wooden sculpture of a mother and child carved during sleepless nights of regret. May stirred in her bassinet, her tiny hands reaching skyward. Emma lifted her daughter, breathing in her perfect newborn scent. We're home, she whispered, uncertain if she meant this apartment, this city, or this new version of herself, a woman who had walked through fire and emerged not unscathed, but unquestionably stronger. Outside, autumn leaves continued their descent, carried by winds of change, each one finding its own path to the ground below. Emma watched them fall, no longer afraid of where she might land.